5 German shepherds, abandoned in a rusted container, left to die in the middle of the ocean. Not a single soul around. Just water, fear, silence. They didn't bark. They didn't cry. They had no more strength left to beg for help. They were trembling, starving, waiting for either a miracle or the end. But then fate whispered, "Not yet." Before I tell you what happened next, I want to know where you're watching this from. Comment your country below. Because today, we're not just telling a story, we're awakening something the world is losing: humanity. If you still believe in compassion, courage, and second chances, then hit that subscribe button right now. Because every single subscription is equal to a donation. We're not asking for money, we're asking for hope. One click, one share, one heart at a time. You can change a life. You can save a soul. Let's inspire the world, because it's time we remember what it means to care. Now, let me take you to that haunting moment in the middle of the ocean, where 5 forgotten dogs were given a second chance. In the middle of the vast Atlantic, where no land was visible for thousands of miles, something floated against the tide. A rusty old container, barely held together by corroded metal and the will of something unseen. No one knew how it got there. No one knew how long it had been drifting. But inside that metal box was a secret the ocean kept until now. 5 German shepherds, once full of life, dogs bred for strength, loyalty, intelligence. Now, they lay on the cold steel floor, ribs visible, tongues dry, eyes vacant. The stench of fear, urine, and salt water filled the air. No food, no water, no light. Just each other, curled in a tight pile, holding on to warmth like it was the last thread keeping them alive. They didn't know what they'd done wrong. They didn't understand why the hands that once fed them had locked them away. They didn't deserve this. One of them, the oldest, still had a collar. Rocco, it read. Faded letters on a worn leather strap. Rocco had tried to keep the others alive, licking their wounds, sharing body heat, barking into the void long after his voice had cracked into silence. But hope. Hope is a cruel thing when left alone for too long. Even he was beginning to lose it. Then came a sound, a distant thrum, like thunder, but mechanical. Something was approaching. For the first time in days, maybe weeks, ears perked, eyes opened. They were too weak to bark. But inside their fading spirits, something stirred. Life, a whisper of survival. It was a U.S. Marines vessel. They weren't looking for anything special, just a routine ocean patrol, debris, illegal activity, stranded vessels. But what they found wasn't in any manual. "Sir, there's something floating ahead. Looks like a container." At first, they thought it might be empty, or part of a shipwreck. But as they got closer, they saw movement, faint, slow, barely noticeable. A tail, a paw. Wait, those are dogs. Sergeant David Cole's heart stopped. He leaned over the railing, binoculars raised. And in that one moment, memories came crashing back. Another German shepherd, his own, Max. The dog that saved his life during a mission in Afghanistan 5 years earlier. The dog who took a bullet meant for him. The dog he buried with full honors, tears in his eyes, medals in his hand. Now, 5 faces stared back at him from inside a dying box in the ocean, terrified, hollow, waiting. "Get the lifeboat in the water, now." No one argued, but then someone pointed it out, a shadow beneath the surface, a dorsal fin circling. "Sir, we've got a shark. Big one. Tiger shark, maybe." They hesitated just a second. But not David. He didn't even take his boots off before jumping into the lifeboat. "Drive. We're getting them out. Shark or not." When he reached the container, the sound of claws scraping weakly against metal told him they were still alive. He opened the doors, and what he saw broke him. 5 skeletons covered in fur, not barking, not growling, just looking at him, as if asking one question: "Are you real?" They didn't run, they didn't move, they didn't trust it yet. But then he reached in, held out his hand. Rocco crawled forward, inch by inch, and licked it. That was all it took. He lifted them one by one, carefully, slowly, as if they were made of glass. The lifeboat rocked. the shark circled. His team watched, rifles ready. But nothing was stopping this moment. Not fear, not logic, not the ocean itself. When the last dog was in his arms, he whispered, "You're safe now. I promise." Back on the ship, medics worked fast. Fluids, emergency rations, blankets. They didn't treat them like animals. They treated them like soldiers, survivors, brothers. David stayed with them the whole night, slept on the floor beside their makeshift beds, let them lean on his chest when they trembled. And when he was asked what to do next, he already knew. "I'm taking them home." The media wanted the story. The military wanted answers. Animal rights groups demanded investigations. But David didn't care about any of that. He brought them to his own house, a small place by the mountains, quiet, safe. He named them Rocco, the leader; Sasha, the only female, gentle but fierce; Bolt, the youngest, with lightning scars on his hind leg; Ghost, the silent one who never barked; Bear, the big one with the softest eyes. He watched them heal, from shaking under tables, to chasing butterflies in the garden, from not eating unless hand-fed, to barking for treats at the door, from fear to freedom. His fellow Marines visited. Some were amazed, others confused. "You should train them. We could use them in service." "They're strong, they're smart." But David always said the same thing. "They've seen death up close. They've been through hell. They don't owe anyone anything anymore, not even this country. They deserve peace." And so, he gave them exactly that. They became family. Neighbors called them the Ghost Pack. Kids came to play. Strangers cried hearing their story. Every year, on the anniversary of their rescue, David took them to the sea. Not the deep ocean, just a quiet beach. Let them feel the breeze, smell the salt, run in the sand. Because now they had something no one could take away. A second chance at life. The first time he met Rocco, the dog had been nothing but skin and bones, barely able to stand, let alone walk. But even in that state there was a spark in his eyes, a fire that refused to go out. David had seen it before, in soldiers who'd been through hell, who fought until they had nothing left. Rocco wasn't just a dog, he was a fighter, a protector, a survivor. But the bond they shared wasn't one built on duty, it was one built on love. David had seen how Rocco looked at him, not with obedience, but with trust. The kind of trust that only comes from knowing someone would give their life for you without hesitation. That was the truth David could never ignore. And yet, as the hours ticked down to midnight, he realized that truth was also a weapon. It was what Ellis would use against him. There was no way to save them without losing everything. David made a plan. He spent the next day fortifying the house, reinforcing the doors, setting up escape routes, making sure the dogs were ready. Sasha and Ghost had already proven themselves. Bear had always been quick to protect. Bolt, despite being young, was sharp and agile. But Rocco? Rocco was his anchor. David needed him to help make this final stand. The world had forgotten what loyalty meant, but David hadn't. He hadn't forgotten how these 5 dogs had fought through unimaginable odds. He couldn't let them go back to that life, not after everything they had endured. As the sky darkened, David sat with the dogs on the porch. The night air was cool, the breeze whispering through the trees. For a moment, everything felt like it always had, peaceful, safe. But David knew it wasn't real. The storm was coming. He just didn't know how it would hit. Rocco sat beside him, his head resting on David's knee, eyes alert but calm. Sasha lay on the other side, Bolt curled beneath her. Bear stood at the fence watching for movement. Ghost guarded the back door, his gaze unblinking. David's hand hovered over Rocco's fur. "You've been through so much. I don't know if I can protect you again." The dog looked up at him with eyes that had seen more than any creature should. He didn't need words to understand. "I'm not afraid of the fight, Rocco," David whispered, "but I'm afraid of losing you." For the first time, Rocco didn't just look back with loyalty. He leaned in closer, his body pressing against David's. It was as if the dog understood the depth of the sacrifice, a moment of silent understanding, a promise from both sides. No matter what happened, they were in this together. And then, as if the world had readied itself for war, the first shot rang out. David's heart skipped. The dogs reacted instantly, alert, defensive, ready. They moved with the precision of soldiers who had been through hell. "Stay inside," David ordered, voice calm but sharp. He grabbed his rifle and ran to the front of the house. Through the scope, he saw them. Two men cloaked in darkness, approaching from the east. They wore tactical gear, the kind Argus operatives used, the same ones who had turned these dogs into weapons. David's blood boiled. They thought they could take them back, thought they could just show up and reclaim what was never theirs. But they didn't understand the bond. They didn't understand loyalty. David couldn't see Ellis, but he could feel his presence, looming like a shadow over every decision. Another shot, closer this time, not a warning, a message. David ducked behind cover. He knew they were coming, for the dogs, for him, for everything. The soft growls of his pack mixed with the crunch of boots on gravel. They were with him, every step, every move, in sync. And then it happened. They reached the gate. David didn't hesitate. He couldn't. It was time. The world held its breath as the first shadow crossed the threshold. A faint shuffle of boots, the clink of metal gear. There was no turning back. David's heart pounded, but his hands were steady. He didn't need to look back. He could hear the growls, the rustle of fur, Rocco's low snarl anchoring him in the chaos. They were no longer just dogs, they were his family. The first man stepped into the yard, his silhouette caught in the glow of the porch light, masked, armed, fast, but not fast enough. Rocco lunged, a blur of fury and power. The man didn't even have time to raise his weapon before Rocco slammed into him like a freight train. Sasha and Bear followed, teeth bared, synchronized like dancers in battle. The sounds of struggle echoed through the night. David scanned the yard. "Stay close," he shouted. Bolt streaked past like lightning, agile, unpredictable. Ghost held the line at the fence, silent, focused. David exhaled, steadying himself. There were more out there. The second man appeared, weapon raised, approaching fast. Terror flared in David's chest. But it wasn't for him. It was for them. "No!" he roared, raising his rifle, and the dogs attacked. Sasha's jaws snapped near the man's legs. Ghost surged forward, locking onto his arm. Bear crashed into him, dragging him down. Bolt darted in, fast, surgical. It was over in seconds. David's breath shook, but he didn't have time to dwell. The third intruder was still out there. And this one was different. Colonel Mark Ellis, the man who started it all. David's mind flashed back. Afghanistan, the war, the orders, the lies. Ellis had pushed for more training, more brutality. He was the one who broke those dogs. And now he had come to finish what he started. But not on David's watch. David moved with purpose. The dogs followed, unified, focused. They had one mission: defend their family. David reached the back door. There he was, Ellis, framed in the shadows, rifle in hand, calm, confident, but wrong, so very wrong. "End of the line, Ellis," David said. Ellis laughed, a cold, humorless sound. "You think you've won, Cole? These aren't your dogs. They're tools, property. You're delusional if you think you can protect them. They'll always belong to me." David didn't flinch, not anymore. This wasn't just a fight between men. It was love versus control, loyalty versus corruption. And it was David's turn to win. Without a word, Rocco charged. Time slowed. The dog lunged, snarling, massive frame cutting through the night. Ellis tried to raise his rifle, but Rocco was too fast. The collision knocked him to the ground, weapon gone, power gone. The others followed, Sasha, Ghost, Bear, Bolt, moving like a single living force, not just fighting to survive, fighting to be free, fighting for love. Ellis tried to crawl, but Rocco pinned him, growling low. David approached, calm and steady. No more words, no more violence. It was done. The man who had broken them was broken himself, and he would never touch them again. David knelt beside Rocco, eyes meeting his. "You're free," he whispered. And for the first time, Rocco lowered his head, not in submission, but in peace. Behind him stood Sasha, Ghost, Bear, Bolt, their eyes soft, their postures strong. They had survived. Together. The storm had passed. The family had made it. And in the days that followed, David Cole continued the fight, not with weapons, but with love, with truth. He made sure the world knew what had happened, and he made sure that no one could ever hurt dogs like them again. If this tale moved you, if you felt the tension, the heartbreak, and the triumph, please support our channel by hitting the like button and subscribing. Your support means the world to us and helps us bring more thrilling, emotional, and inspiring stories your way. Leave a comment below and let us know what you think. Do you believe dogs have an extraordinary sixth sense? Share your thoughts and personal stories with us. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.